Ah, the infamous renaming of the Denny Duquette Memorial Clinic. Let's break this down, shall we? First off, I've never quite understood why Miranda Bailey thought it was a brilliant idea to change the name of the clinic in the first place. Sure, she's trying to honor her mother and all, which is great, but let's not forget the $8.7 million Denny Duquette donated. That money wasn't just some loose change, it was the foundation for the clinic's very existence. Without it, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But here's the kicker. She renames Denny's clinic, the very one created in his honor. Essentially, she wiped out his legacy, even though the clinic was initially his gift. It feels like renaming Grace Sloan because the original founders died a while ago, right? Is anyone else shaking their head at this? I honestly never put that much thought into it before, but now that you mention it, you've got a point. Denny's money went into that clinic, and renaming it does seem a bit unnecessary. Was it $8.7 million or billion? I thought it was million too, but whatever the exact figure, it was definitely a substantial donation. Then there's the argument about the clinic's closure. Yeah, the clinic did shut down, more than once, in fact. It was Denny's money that went into its creation, but after it fizzled out, it was temporarily revived by Izzie before it was closed yet again. And now Bailey's come along and reopened it with a new focus on women's health. So from that perspective, renaming it doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. But let's be clear, she didn't rename anything. She opened a new clinic, one focused on reproductive health, and chose to honor her mother by naming it accordingly. There was no legacy left to protect, since Denny's original clinic had already shut down due to funding problems, long before Izzie ever set foot in the building. The clinic itself wasn't even an active part of Denny's legacy by the time Bailey took over. If Izzie got to name an existing building simply because she was using it, then it seems fair game for Bailey to do the same. It's all a bit messy, but in the end, Bailey's decision makes sense, even if it feels like a slight to Denny's original gift. All right, let's hear it. Drop your hottest, most unpopular take, because I'm about to drop mine and prepare to get absolutely crucified. I'm not talking the Derek was a jerk or George's death was deserved hot takes that everyone throws around. I'm talking real, genuine unpopular opinions that'll probably get me banned from the entire subreddit. So first off, let's talk about Alex. His exit? Yeah, not as horrible as everyone makes it out to be. Fight me if you must, but I honestly don't think it was that tragic. But what really gets me going is the random inclusion of Callie and Ortho. Seriously, was anyone else confused by this whole storyline? She never even got her own intern, so why the sudden obsession with her dating and marrying George? It was like they just threw her in there because reasons, and then we're supposed to care about her for some reason. And let's talk about Izzie's daughter's parents. I get it, they're desperate, but let's be real, they were total jerks in how they handled that bone marrow situation. They knew they weren't supposed to contact Izzie, and yet they roll up to her job like it's no big deal. They try to guilt her into donating, blaming her for the genetic cancer that's apparently her fault now. And then they're all surprised when Izzie asks to see her daughter. Seriously? You're bringing all this drama to her doorstep, expecting her to be a perfect donor but not prepared for the emotional fallout? Get a grip. They totally overstepped and then played the "it's for the kid" card when they were the ones violating their own agreement. That whole situation was just so off. Next, let's talk about Eli. He never had any actual chemistry with Bailey. Like, who were we fooling here? The dude was just so clearly gay, I couldn't even take him seriously. It was like watching a bad performance in a high school play. And Callie's custody battle with Arizona? There's absolutely no way their relationship was ever going to recover after all the things said and done. Callie's attack on Arizona was so out of character, it felt like the writers were just trying to stir the pot for drama's sake. Everyone likes to say Meredith had the worst exit, but Callie did. I mean, she barely even showed up in her last episode. No big farewell, no emotional goodbye to anyone, and then boom, the next season starts and she's just casually packed up and moved to New York like it's no big deal. She's all, "Oh, I'll just take Sophia out of school, sign the custody papers, and disappear into the sunset in 12 hours with no job or place to stay." Come on, guys, that's just lazy writing. And finally, for my second worst take, Alex's whole mysterious, deep demeanor was not a mask for insecurity. It was just who he was, a giant ego wrapped in a doctor's coat. The dude thought he was a hotshot, not because he was insecure, but because he genuinely believed he was the best. He treated women however he wanted, expected the world to revolve around him, and let's not even get started on his hypocrisy. He'd sleep around, but slut-shame Izzie for her modeling career. He'd call Joe trash and Izzie a stupid B***tech when they didn't comply with his demands. And let's not forget the absolute entitlement he had. He could never see his own faults, but by God, he sure had a lot to say about everyone else's. He wasn't some misunderstood hero. He was just a dude with a massive ego and zero self-awareness. Amelia is definitely a standout character, so I get the attachment. Let's rank her partners based on everything we know. Link, yeah, I totally get why you liked him. When they first started, it was electric. The chemistry was undeniable, and their playful, flirty energy was top-notch. But then, the end came and it felt like they just fizzled out. Not sure what happened there. Still, I think Link was a solid match, especially for her post-Owen phase. Owen, the love-hate saga. Owen was definitely the one that got away, or at least the one that was always complicated. They had their ups and downs, but the emotional connection was real. Honestly, they were a roller coaster, but there was something there that felt important, despite all the chaos. Kai, the wild card. I totally get why they had their moment. Amelia needed someone who could understand her unique brand of chaos, and Kai seemed to fit the bill. They shared an intense connection, but it didn't have the longevity of her other relationships. So, to sum it up, Link's at the top for me, followed by Owen, and then Kai. I can totally understand why you liked Link the most. Their chemistry at the beginning was just next level. Hopefully, Amelia finds someone who doesn't make her go through so much emotional whiplash in future seasons. Oh, Dr. Christina Yang. The one and only surgeon whose skills were so sharp, even her sarcasm had a surgical precision. So let's imagine the perfect comeback for her, shall we? Picture this. Meredith, preparing to bid farewell to Grace Sloane, is met with an unexpected, albeit highly overdue, arrival. It's been years since Christina left, but Meredith is the reason that could drag her back. Remember how Christina always said, "I don't do this emotional stuff"? Well, here she is, walking back into the ore, because, despite everything, Meredith's her person. And let's face it, Christina does owe Meredith one. For, all those years of making sure she stayed alive, despite her utter lack of interest in nurturing anyone's feelings. So maybe, just maybe, Christina shows up for one last goodbye, sweeping through the doors like she owns the place, because, well, she kind of does. A high-stakes surgery, a brief run-in with Owen, because they're both too busy to care about that mess anymore. And then the grand finale, Christina, making sure Meredith walks out of that hospital just as she promised her years ago. And just to spice things up, why not throw Izzie in there for a bit of nostalgia? Maybe she's now the head of a completely new department, but hey, she owes Meredith and the gang one last reunion too. We get a final shot of the first five, the dream team, who've now all blossomed into master surgeons. One final moment before they all go their separate ways. Christina, as fabulous as ever, just needs a quick curtain call to remind us all why she's the most iconic surgeon in the world. No need for a full season. Just give her a perfect send-off. Now, on to the real comeback fantasy. How about Christina comes back for a mind-blowing, once-in-a-lifetime surgery, a procedure so rare, Only Christina could pull it off, and maybe just a little bit for Meredith too. But let's not kid ourselves, she's here for the surgery, the fame, the glory. Meredith? Meredith can wait. And when the residents fanboy over her, wondering if she's truly the Christina Yang they've only heard about in legendary hospital gossip. Oh, she'll just drop a casual, "Yeah, I trained under Teddy Altman. Current chief, your boss, classic Yang. We also don't need any romantic mess. Forget Owen. Christina's too busy being an absolute powerhouse. Maybe Owen needs surgery, fine. But let's have Christina swoop in, show Teddy how it's done, and bam, no need for any emotional encounters. Just pure, unfiltered Yang brilliance. Leave the baggage at the door. So yeah, let's have Christina Yang back. Just enough for us to remember how she's not just Meredith's best friend. She's the surgeon we all wish we could be, and we're lucky to catch one last glimpse of her in action before she continues being a legend from afar. One episode, one perfect goodbye. That's all we need. Ah, yes, the iconic Owen and Christina drama. Let's dive in. So we all know the whole saga about Owen kicking Christina out of the house she bought for them because he liked it. Oh, and because she got pregnant and didn't want to keep the baby. Yeah, totally normal, right? Let's start with the basics. Christina was crystal clear from the get-go that she had no interest in having kids. He, on the other hand, kept bringing it up and pressuring her, like a dog with a bone. The accidental pregnancies argument is there, sure, but this was 2012. We knew how to avoid those things by then. Birth control is a thing, and not everyone reacts well to it. But let's not pretend that this is the only angle here. But here's the kicker. Owen knew she didn't want kids, he still married her, and then acted like he was shocked when she didn't want to keep the baby. Like seriously, what did he expect? That she'd change her mind just because he said, "Oh, come on, it'll be fine"? That's what really got me. He put her in an impossible position, and then made her the villain when she didn't comply with his idea of family. And it gets better. You'd think as a doctor, Owen would have some sense of human empathy, but no, instead, he throws a tantrum and kicks her out of the house. The house she bought for them because he thought it was nice. That's a great way to show you care, right? Let's not forget his whole, "I'm a doctor, so I deserve a woman who is driven, unless she's willing to stay at home, in which case she's not driven enough for me" routine. He gets with women like Amelia who don't want kids, and then plays the victim when they're not interested in the whole family thing. Makes total sense, right? When he kicked Christina out, I was done with him. It was the moment he showed he didn't care about her, because if he truly did, he would have left, not her. But nope, guess it's just easier to be angry and punish her for not fitting into his perfect little vision. Classic Owen. Oh, Stephanie Edwards' exit from Grey's is honestly a whole tragic comedy. I'm rewatching it, and seriously, her ending takes the cake for most traumatic reason to leave a show. Like, who else can say they had to kill a guy to exit? It's either the plot was written that way, or maybe the actors had a new gig. But, damn, what a way to go out. Season 13's finale was amazing, though. It really felt like they were gearing up for more of her storyline, like they wanted her to become a bigger deal. But no, turns out she chose to leave. And here's the kicker. After 5 years of being on the show, dating Jackson, being the top resident, getting mentored by Amelia, and, oh yeah, literally murdering someone in self-defense, casual, getting set on fire, blowing up the hospital. She's just never mentioned again. Except for that one offhand comment Joe makes in the next episode, like, cool. Imagine the aftermath of all that. The trauma of the fallout, nada. After Derek's death, things got really heavy, and honestly, Stephanie's decision to quit was the smartest thing anyone could have done after surviving all that chaos. Sandra Oh is absolutely iconic, and rewatching Season 8 has only reinforced how she took what could have been a snarky best friend trope and turned it into some of the most memorable, jaw-dropping moments of the show. If I had to list her top moments off the top of my head, Here's what I'd highlight. The nerve-wracking scene where she operates on Derek at gunpoint. Peak Christina. Finding out Henry was the patient and being forced to tell Teddy. One of the most gut-wrenching moments she's ever had. Her speech to Owen about how Burke took pieces of her. Heartbreaking, yet full of strength. The absolute terror in her eyes when Owen strangles her in his sleep. Truly chilling. Telling Owen about how they tried to save Lexi's body from being eaten by animals after the crash. Raw and harrowing. What else would you add to this list? Honestly, Christina's ability to capture the complexity of the plane crash trauma in that bathtub scene. Unmatched. She didn't just show the trauma, she made you feel it. Her description of trying to keep bugs out of Arizona's leg and stopping wolves from eating Lexi's body. It added so much depth to the trauma of that entire event. And don't even get me started on the gut punch of when she couldn't stop crying after losing the baby with Burke. Her sobs were devastating. The fishing scene with Derek. That emotional release when she held up the fish was everything. Sometimes you just have to let it out, and Christina did that in the most raw, beautiful way. Honestly, there are so many moments where Sandra Oh just shines. She's always so authentic, so real. I couldn't pick just one. But that surgery to save Derek's life, that moment stands out for sure. Oh, and that scene where Christina tells Meredith, Derek isn't the son, you are. Oh, I ugly cried. That is the kind of friend we all need. She said it with so much conviction, and instead of being trite or sarcastic, it was all about lifting her best friend up. If that isn't an iconic Christina moment, I don't know what is. So just out of curiosity, is there anyone here who actually stuck it out and watched every single season of Grey's since it first aired? I started watching when I was 15, and I'm turning 33 in a week. Yep, that's right, 33. I tapped out around season 5, though, and now with all these renewals, I'm honestly curious if anyone else who started back in my day is still clinging to this wild ride. On the other hand, this person started watching when they were 9. I mean, what are we even doing here, right? And has watched every single year since. They even turned 29 this past February, so officially too old for this. Oh, and the real kicker. They were watching it on a massive metal antenna that was perched on a house from the 1800s. I mean, who needs streaming services when you've got 3 channels? Their main go-tos were ABC and PBS. So naturally, Thursday nights were sacred, 8 p.m. bedtime, but Grey's with Mom and Sister was the exception. Oh, and they cried when Derek died, until they heard the gossip about why they axed his character like that. Because, of course, there's always a backstory, isn't there? Does anyone else really dislike Rose? I'm rewatching the show for what feels like the 100th time, and I've been paying a bit more attention to Rose, the scrub nurse Derek briefly dated. At first, I didn't think much of her. She seemed nice enough, but oh my god, when Derek chose Meredith over her, her reaction was just, wow. I mean, this woman is supposed to be an adult, yet she acts like a whiny, passive-aggressive child. At her workplace, no less. It was beyond frustrating. I was actually relieved when she didn't show up after that whole drama. Seriously, she couldn't handle the adulting, and it was so annoying to watch. I know it's probably silly to get this worked up over a character who didn't even last long on the show, but here we are. Anyone else feel the same? Also, can we talk about the lack of chemistry between them? It always felt like Derek wasn't that into her, right? When did Burke ever say he wanted kids? I keep hearing people claim that Christina got pregnant by 2 guys who were apparently just dying to be dads. But let's talk about Burke for a second. Christina got pregnant with his baby, and they weren't even in a relationship at the time. It was a casual fling, and Christina, being the rational person she is, said she wasn't going to keep the baby because she barely knew Burke, and oh right, she was just an intern. Beyond that, I don't remember Burke ever saying he wanted kids. Some people seem really sure he did, though, as if it was somehow obvious. But if he actually did, Wouldn't he have mentioned it to Christina when they were discussing the baby they lost? I mean, I know Burke goes on to have kids later on, but that's a completely different time and situation. So, am I missing something here? Did Burke actually say he wanted children? If so, can someone point me to the exact episode? Because I'm genuinely not remembering this conversation at all. And to be fair, Burke was always kind of the traditional type. Marriage, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, I guess kids were probably on his radar as part of the next steps. Kind of like Derek, who only finally brought it up after marrying Meredith. But it's a little weird that he and Addison apparently never even considered having children. Go figure. I'm actually willing to bet Christina would have ended up with a kid if she had married Burke. He was the more dominant partner, so it's safe to assume he would have made her have one. But wait, didn't Burke mention wanting kids around the time they were planning their wedding? Wasn't that when he was talking to his mom? I'm on my first watch through, so I could be mixing things up. But I'm pretty sure he didn't really bring it up to Christina, and honestly, neither did Owen before they tied the knot. The way Burke handled the whole baby situation after the miscarriage was pretty impressive, though at least he didn't pressure Christina. Owen, on the other hand. Well, we all know how that went. My partner says Burke did ask Christina about her plans regarding the baby, and that's when he mentioned wanting kids in the future. But honestly, I don't remember that scene. So yeah, feel free to enlighten me if I've missed something.